I've stood here since before mankind drew lines on maps, watching empires rise and fall like foam on the sea. Beneath my roots, the Volga River still churns, carrying whispers from a distant past. My bark has tasted sweet morning dew and the bitterness of war. Before this city's name became a scar on history, I was just a gentle giant, a shelter for lovers. But then, the sky tilted. 1942 arrived with the roar of steel and the stench of fire. City by the river became a ruin, its walls chanting a mournful elegy. I went from a home for birds to a reluctant shield, caught between two armies. My body became riddled with scars, my sap flowing like amber tears. I held fast to the earth, becoming a silent cathedral for two lost souls. The first was Ivan. He smelled of rich soil, gunpowder, and crushing fatigue. In his pocket, a crumpled letter blurred with sweat held his reason for fighting, not for conquest, but to protect the land beneath his feet. On the other side of my wounded trunk was Matthias. He was just a boy, his hands made for crafting wood, now gripping cold steel. I could feel his longing for peace as his fingers traced my bark, a homesick child seeking comfort. So at first, they were enemies, ready to end it all with a single shot. But then came a greater foe, winter. Kiel, the brutal cold of the Volga, respected no uniform, no language, no ideal. It froze courage and hatred alike. Ivan shivered, his teeth chattering. Matthias coughed, the sound lost into quiet. Beneath my bare branches, the line between them blurred, leaving only two small beings trembling for warmth. One gray afternoon, Ivan collapsed against me, his breath a fading mist. On the other side, Matthias felt the vibration. He heard the weak, broken breathing. This was his chance, the moment to end a threat. He tightened his grip on his weapon, but his heart slowed. Through a crack in my trunk, he saw not an enemy, but a back hunched in pain, just like his father's back home. He sat, stunned, his weapon suddenly heavy and meaningless. Then, a bird's song pierced the fog, awakening a conscience that had been numbed by fear. Matthias looked up, his gaze trembling, then strangely steady. On the other side, Ivan seemed to accept his fate, relaxing his body. But darkness didn't come. Instead, a small, heartbreaking miracle occurred. A piece of hard, dried bread, Matthias's only possession, was tossed past my trunk. It landed on the snow and rolled to Ivan's hand. Absolute silence. Ivan stared at the bread, his eyes wide with astonishment. His rough hand trembled as he picked it up, treating it like a sacred treasure. Then, from his tattered medical pouch, he tossed back a clean roll of bandages. Not a word was spoken. Their gazes never met. It was a silent exchange between two human beings on the edge of life. I stood between them, a physical barrier, but their souls had passed right through me to touch. An invisible peace treaty was signed. They were still soldiers, but for a moment, they chose their conscience over their orders. I heard Ivan whisper in a delirium, "Mother, I am living next to a human." I felt Matthias press his cheek against my bark, his hot tears soaking into the dry wood. They shared life, not because they betrayed their flags, but because they stayed loyal to their own humanity. Then, just as quickly, it was over. Ivan rushed away into the dust, and Matthias vanished into the gray mist before dawn. I never saw them again. Time moved on. The city, now called Volgograd, rose from the ashes. The scars of war were filled with wildflowers and the laughter of children. People, once again, carved their names into my bark, and kids climbed my low branches. No one knows that deep within this rugged shell, I hold a sacred Secretera story about a piece of bread and a roll of bandages. It's the most powerful proof I know that even when the world collapses in hatred, the light of compassion always burns. War can redraw borders, but human kindness is the only thing that can erase them completely, reminding us that the person on the other side is just that, a person who feels pain and knows how to offer warmth with their last breath of life. Thanks for listening to this story. If it moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that explores the deeper side of our shared history. Stay curious,